Okay, I believe we are live here for the first segment of Quantum Leap on February 22nd. I know one of our guests in the second part pointed out this is a unique date, 22222. Okay, so five twos.
Yeah.
But
And two,
Cory, how are you today?
good. Yeah.
Good. Um, and just a little crib sheet for today's show. We are going to go over back up a little bit and what I would consider some of the most critical pieces of business success, and also some of the strongest parts of how Cory has really helped me. And I'll just give a little testimonial that some of these things I don't think I would have figured out. Um, I know I wouldn't have figured them out if I hadn't met some Cory, and we'll talk about some of the uniqueness of those things. Really, it's purpose, vision, mission, and goals. And this is really the crux of how to get started turning your life and your business around. And I can really provide firsthand knowledge of that, and Cory can too. But with that, first, I want to do a quick check-in, Cory, and I kind of jumped the gun asking you how you were, but I do want you to just have you introduce yourself and do our quick check-in for Quantum Leap today.
Yeah. So Cory and I here, and I am business coach with Take Wing Coaching. Happy to be here with David. Not a lot going on, just prepping quite a few articles and other things to keep our business going.
Great. And I'll just say I was excited to last week get that Rising Star, the first promo out for that. And we're going to be talking about how to continue to market that. I really see this as a soft launch for the first phase of the program. And I'm going to immediately start working on phase two, because I really would like to see it kind of be self running, because I'm not going to have a lot of time to do a ton of one-on-one coaching, so to speak. But I really think it's providing the kind of nuts and bolts of how to be successful based on what you've developed with Lyft, and then some of my own experience and take, and really guiding people on how to be a rising star in business, how to take your life and career to the next level. And we'll put out some more promo stuff on that, as we were talking about. You might actually be we'll talk about that stuff later. And today I just wanted to get right to it about the importance of goal setting. And if you don't mind, Cory, just telling us about why that's important and how you get people started here. Say it's a new coaching client, or maybe somebody new to Lyft. And I know you do have some key modules in Lyft on goal setting, which is, highly impactful.
Yeah, we just started working with a client on their goal setting. It's always an exciting time. There's a lot of things we'll be talking about today that I think we put in place first before we begin the goal process, just because, so a goal is important, because without a goal, a plan is just a dream, really. And we don't know where it's going. So a goal is kind of an endpoint. It's a place to get to. And there's many philosophies on goal setting. Ours is one that it ought to be based on those core values, vision, and where you're going, that whole path and mission. And we go really deep into that with our clients, because then that brings us into the goal setting, which a lot of people have heard of SMART goals. And we also add a little bit to that, because we believe that part of accomplishing a goal is having a clear vision of what it's going to be about. What does it actually create, right? If I want to set a goal for a certain amount of money or a certain number of clients, it's got to mean something, right? There's a reward, there's a vision, there's something that the process even serves the values and purpose. So a lot of our goal setting process is based on that. And I would encourage anybody who's looking like, okay, I set a goal. And some people are very goal oriented. They set a goal and they'll just hit it, but that often means they're not stretching themselves. So if they're setting a stretch goal, it really helps to have a clear vision for what that is going to mean for them when they achieve it. And even some vision along the way, right? As we help more people, we get more done, that kind of thing.
Great. And I'll just say, for those of you who may not have heard of Lyft, Cory's platform for entrepreneurs, it's really what's really an MBA degree and an affordable price and package. And I'd say Cory probably knows more than most in terms of broad base. He's like kind of his own business school, so to speak, a practical business school, I would say. And that's not to take anything away from places like Harvard or other places, but if you get too much into the academics, I think you really lose what's actually important to be successful in business. And the beauty of Lyft is that you can get up and going and results that'll turn yourself around in 4 to 6 months or maybe even a month or two, and spend a few $100s instead of incurring a bunch of debt that for something that you might not even use to the same level once you get out with the business school.
Yeah, we just had a client who just basically said that the work we did with her, and we've seen this with over and over again with our clients, is transformational. And so our clients do tend to be, solo practitioners, maybe getting ready to hire a few people or have some assistants or, train some new employees, but they're looking for that expression of the purpose in their business as well. And it could be any profession, but it tends to lean towards healing and other kind of people to people services.
And I'll just say too, getting to our second part of this issue is, my goal, one of my early experiences with goal setting was from Bob Proctor, who recently passed away, who was really a leading international expert in kind of personal development. And I know we talk about him a lot on the show because my other business coach was very influenced by him. And he talks a lot about how most people don't hit their goals because they set the wrong ones. So I think you really need somebody like you who can really spend some time with people to hear what we don't see for ourselves, so to speak, because you actually have to set a goal that you don't know how to reach, that really excites you, that gets you up in the morning. And, a lot of people just say, well, I just want my business to kind of get me by, but you're never going to get excited about that. I use the analogy now of getting in shape, where my old goal used to be, well, I just want to get in shape. But now it's really, no, I want to use, I want to not only get in shape, I want to be kind of a triathlete, so to speak, or a kind of a, just a higher vision of what that is. And, I don't need to be kind of a pro athlete, but you want something that's going to motivate you. Just having your business enough to get by, that's not really a goal. You really want $1 million business or something that is going to excite you. And I don't know if you have an example what that might be for you. You have a great vision in this area, you and Gail, in terms of what your vision for your business looks like.
Right. Right. Yeah. And that's a very important way to look at your goals too, is not just they're really in harmony with everything that you do. Otherwise, they're just not going to feel right. And sometimes, one of the things we do encourage our clients to do, or anybody who's setting goals, is to look at where's that goal coming from. Is it internal or is it external? Is it somebody else saying you should do this? And if you're an employee, that, maybe somebody's setting goals for you, right? Here's your sales quota. But as individuals, sometimes we have that little voice in the back of the head that says you should be doing this. And I would say turn off that voice and listen to what really is important to you and create from there. I'm sure. And Proctor similar.
Yeah. And you took me through a process on this in one of your early seminars that's called Flight Plan, that's also available on Lyft. I don't know that it has the same name, where you have a series of modules on getting clarity on your purpose, vision, something called a 360 vision, which is hugely impactful to get that started first, in your mission. I don't know if you could just tell us about those modules and Lyft and a little bit about this process. I'll just give a brief testimonial first, but about you have some kind of journaling and really drilling down to kind of tease this stuff out, and then setting some clarity on it where you actually write down some of this stuff. If you don't have anything to add on kind of first what these things are and how to get started there.
Yeah. So we see this as the foundation of a business, and clearly every business plan has some similar work in it, right? Where are you going with this business? What's your mission? What's your purpose? And we go much deeper into the process. Again, I use the term transformational because that's what our clients say is, is it's not just the foundation of something you're doing, it is the foundation of your life's work for however long that part will be. I mean, our life's work can change over time, and we're going to focus the next 3 to 5 years on something very important. Let's develop that around, what's the big vision? What is our life going to look like in 3 to 5 years? What is our business going to look like? Who does it impact? Who does it impact from there? You have your ripple effect podcast, and we love the ripple effect in terms of what we as business owners create, and who does that affect down the road for our employees, our clients, the community, the world. And as we get into that, then we start to suss out those core values and what is the mission? How do we actually get to that vision without getting off track? Most people I work with especially tend to run on bunny trails, and I do the same thing. So if we can keep those bunny trails kind of staying on one path, back and forth to the same path, then we can hit those goals that we set from that vision. And that's why it's so important to have that as a foundation for really strong goal setting.
Great. I think this, for me, it started with that 360 vision and purpose. And really, that's what attracts your ideal client to you. For Lyft, for example, you guys, really focus on balance and really creating your ideal life. It's not only about your business, but it's your life that your business fits into, so to speak, a lifestyle for being an entrepreneur. And I think that's what's so attractive about becoming an entrepreneur. But I think so few people actually hit that balance that they can do, when and I'll just say that you're never going to get there unless you plan that and kind of create that vision. So you're always going in that direction. Like you're saying, all the trails go in one direction. So I guess we'll kind of move on from this, and that there's just so much to say here. Really, once I'll just say that I call the purpose kind of the fuel for that propels you forward. You have to have something that you can get excited about. You can't get excited about a $50,000 business per se, but you could about a $200,000 or a $500,000 business. So.
Yeah, and you could also get excited about 50,000 if it's, say, a side gig or doing something new. And how does it help your purpose? And maybe it's a product. But yeah, it does help to see how that fits into your overall vision.
Another thing I'll just end with on that I see about your purpose is you're genuinely invested in helping other people, find their purpose and unlock their, their kind of potential. That's like a great thing about Lyft. And, that's something that really attracted me to you early on, and say, well, I want to work with this guy because I want what he has, how he can be excited about helping people every day. So, how about this thing of core values? And I think, I really consider this kind of the foundation of business success. But if you don't mind just telling us a little bit about your core values and why they're important to business and how you can help people with their core values.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't really think a lot about their core values, and we usually have some unshakable core values, and there's so many different ways you can look at the value of it. But really, it comes down to one: if you're not in alignment with your core values, things are just not going to feel right. And that could be with clients, it could be with employees, it could be with investors and partners and all those other things. And so the process of actually defining what those core values are becomes very valuable to that foundation of the business, in terms of choosing to have the right people around you who are in alignment with those. And we have a process of, and anybody can really do this for themselves, of looking at, okay, what are my personal core values and beliefs and those kind of things, and then what are the core values of the business, because they may be a little bit different, especially if there's a partner involved or some other people involved, where it's, so if you look at the my core values are different than Take Wing Coaching, but they're very much in alignment. It's more of a subset within our business, because there's some things that we do in the business that I may not do as much personally, like, getting into that adventure and curiosity with people. So, but the value of it is whenever we bring on clients, we know if they feel right within our core values, they understand what it is that we're going to do with them. When we bring on employees or coaches into our program for affiliates, we want them in alignment with those core values. And they'll have their own, of course, that they bring to the table. But when everybody feels in alignment, it's just going to be a much happier and more harmonious business overall. And so knowing those are important, and we suggest figuring out what are your top 5 or 10, doesn't really matter, but kind of, work on a top 5 and write down what each one of those means to you. Because even then, the word may be a little different than the actual meaning to you.
Great. And I actually have the core values that you took me through on my website, and I'll just say 3 of them here that were so important to my business. And I think you actually want to pick, we have probably more than 5 core values, but, which I'll say a bit more about, but I think just justice, vision, collaboration, and really these are kind of what helped drive me. And I see how there's something called, I've been reading Tony Robbins' book on core values, and he says, and unless you kind of really focus on core values, a lot of people, they don't really know what they are. For example, you're not completely clear on your core values or where they rank, and then that makes it harder to make decisions. But if you get clarity on your core values, this really helps with that focus in your business to connect with your ideal client. And he also talks about being able to reorder your core values. And I'm still kind of debating this about how much like we can kind of change ourselves and our priorities just by saying we're going to do that. I do think for example, with my business, a core value is collaboration, because that's so critical for video production and coaching. And that wasn't something that I really focused on before. I was kind of, I like collaborating, but I didn't see myself maybe as the best collaborator, and there's still work to be done there. But we really have to align those core values with kind of what is going to make us successful in our business. So there's kind of more to be said there. I know your core values, if you don't mind sharing a few of those with us, you touched on them about kind of they actually happen to align with what makes you successful in your business too.
Yeah, we one of our core values is it's kind of fun. There's a couple of fun core values. Well, one we have, and I don't have the list here in front of me, but one of them is we walk the talk, is what we say. We do what we say we're going to do. Well, we do for us what we tell our clients we're going to do. And clearly in business coaching, there's a factor of, we don't do the same things that everybody does, but we do follow that same path. And so we define our core values, we define our vision, we do our goal setting and everything else. Curiosity is a big one for us. And I think we kind of, but curiosity for us is also being challenging. So Gail and I are both curious people, but we put in there that we challenge our clients, right? There's going to be a challenge to what they believe, because we want to encourage them to grow and to transform. And then there's just some of the, the standard things, like obviously the confidentiality of being a coach and all that. So those are important, and confidentiality clearly isn't necessarily a personal core value, but it's definitely one for the business, right, that we maintain. So that's part of walking the talk.
I was just trying to remember, I know you have your B&I sweater on there, about how important B&I is, that B&I actually has a set of 7 core values that come from the founder, Ivan Meisner, that is such a template for business success, in my opinion. I don't know if we have a few more minutes, if we could just talk a little bit about those importance of the core values to B&I, because I find that B&I almost helps us filter who our ideal client is, because if they're in B&I, we're already in alignment on a number of core values, just the fact of them being in B&I. I don't know if you've seen some of that as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, definitely, core values that B&I has, and I think that there's a set of core values that people, adhere to, that are kind of listed in the ethics, right? But one of the core values that I've always seen that are very important in B&I is abundance. right? So if we have an abundant attitude, we're able to bring referrals to the table. We're able to see how we can help everyone else build their business. And that's actually one of the ones that we also took. But I think partly we recognize abundance as being important through BNI, right? So I think in many ways, BNI is a great resource for learning more about your core values, because you're also around a lot of great people, and you can start to figure out, okay, who do I want to be in business, and model those people. And so we have, like I said, we have personal core values, but I also think we have things as business owners that we adopt and model and internalize.
Yeah, that's a great point. The mentoring aspect of BNI, because you have these people in BNI who really excel, like yourself, or the leadership, Mike Macedonia, Don Lyons, who they talk about these core values and then they live those core values. And it's just
Right.
it's such a powerful thing to see that you see after a while that the people who are most successful are the ones who live by those kind of strong core values in their business. And um so that was something that taught me a lot. We have a couple more minutes and we're going to get to our guest Stu. I'd encourage folks, if you do want to do some work on these core values and goals and mission, that's what both of our programs are about, or essentially, you know, my Rising Star, which is just a kind of a guided version of Lyft, and Cory's Lyft platform. So, Cory actually does individual, maybe a handful of coaching sessions. If you just want to get straight on this stuff, it's going to really catapult your business to being on the right track, especially if you haven't done this kind of work before. So I think, the clarifying your purpose, developing your vision, your 360 vision, your mission statement. If you don't have all this stuff done and worked out recently, do get on it. And I don't know if there's a place where people can get started right away on Lyft. I guess they can just sign up and go right into those modules.
Yeah, I mean, we offer it's $5 for the first month, so somebody could just dive right into those modules at almost nothing. And it's video, it's written, and we're working on other things. But we also offer a workshop every month that kind of extends upon flight plan. So there's going to be a lot of different offerings, and of course, David is using some of our materials to offer that too. So you can get some personal coaching on top of the written stuff, because it always helps to have somebody to guide you along through that. And while we do have some open office hours, having somebody do it individual attention is really helpful.
Great. And I am putting together, we are going to have a seminar on this and some workshops to really dive in and introduce some of this stuff in kind of a way that people can just drop in and hear more about this and see how this all works. So Cory and I are putting together an event in probably early May, we're looking at, before you actually travel and before we shut down for the summer for Quantum Leap. But with that, we're just about at time. And thanks, Cory, and everyone for joining us for this first segment. We're going to bring on our guest, Stu Suito, and see you in a couple minutes for the second leg.